Real estate education versus university education. For anybody who's now done real estate, how many people do you think would choose real estate education over university education any day?
Probably 100%.
We both been to university, right? And we both have degrees, so I feel like maybe we come from a position where we can say this. But you know what? A lot of people don't know that in the beginning, I actually never went to university. I went straight into work and went into real estate while working at the same time. And that actually got me, I think, at least so far ahead early on in life. And afterwards, I went into university, I think just because I wanted to make a point. Because there's so many people who, when they ask you, oh, what do? They want to know where you graduated from. And when I used to tell people that I didn't go to university, I didn't graduate early on in my life, people were looking at me like, oh, what's wrong with you? And I used to, man, I felt so bitter about it. I felt so bitter about it.
When we first met, we were actually in the university, right? And then I remember you saying that, listen, like studying in university, getting through the degrees or programs is actually a lot easier than doing the real estate.
Yeah, of course it's a lot easier. There's a path to follow. You don't have to think for yourself. Everything's in the books. Everything's written.
Right. You just need to follow the instruction.
The best thing about the mindset when you're going to university is that there is an itinerary. There is a schedule. It's like there's facilities which facilitate you. You don't have to figure out your own solutions. You don't have to problem solve your own issues. You don't have to stress and worry because there's guidance counselors to go to. There's all this infrastructure that they have. And then people graduate from this facility thinking they're somebody, but you don't know how to think for yourself. I'm not trying to hate on them, but like that's what I saw.
But at the same time, school is to try to speed up the learning curve, right? So they are trying to reduce the thinking as much as possible, providing the right materials and guidance for the students. But in real estate world, at the time, I don't think you were in any sort of mentorship, right?
No.
Okay, but if you were in real estate seminars or real estate mentorship, would you feel like the bit of guidance will help you?
Yes.
grow your
Okay. So
business?
there is a big difference between education and going to university. What I'm talking about is the time that people take to go through university and go through that program and then think a lot of themselves because they think that they've learned to accomplish something. Going and finding a mentor who's not going to give you a degree, but is going to give you real life values, things that you can use and actually apply. Because how many people go through university today, get degrees that they never use practically in a specific profession?
Pretty sure more than 70%.
It is higher more than ever before now that people graduate with degrees that they don't use for the line of work that they're currently in.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And for my case, it's literally because after I got into the workspace, then I realized that that's not what I was looking for.
People choose the degree that they're going to go into in university. It's interesting. Here they do it a lot more than in other countries, I find, but they do it based off of financial output. How much money can this make, especially in Asian culture, right? Like doctor, dentist, some kind of a lawyer or something. Anything that pays high enough, they're just like, yeah, let's do that. Not really doing things that they want to because this is like within you. And then they end up doing these things that they end up either not being happy about or they switch out of. But the one thing that I found very valuable about going into real estate is that it's practical. Everybody needs to know something about real estate. And on top of that, it's immediately applicable.
Yeah, and I think you had a good point. It's the financial outcome, right, that people are looking for. If we have that kind of intention, we will always go straight to like real estate seminars, business seminars, or even like any sort of investment seminars to learn a skill set that we can literally apply right away. In university, you have to go through 4 years. And the reason why it doesn't make any financial sense is because now you got to pay for 40,000, 50,000.
Exactly.
Right? You're going to be in debt before you start making any money. And
Yeah.
the timeline is so long.
I want to mention this little story because a lot of people don't know this about me. When I finished high school, actually, I wasn't doing well in high school at all. And my mother was looking at me, and, my mom's a Chinese woman, very disappointed in the fact that I didn't do well in high school. And then she was looking at my skill sets, and she, surprisingly, and unlike most Chinese parents, told me, I don't think you should go to university. I'm just like,
Interesting.
okay, why not? And then she says, listen, you have this skill set. You've been working with your father in construction. You know how to do these things. If you go to university, you're going to spend something like $40,000. Plus, you're not going to be making any money. And right now, you're making like $40,000 a year doing construction work. She says, why not put that effort into a property that will appreciate? This is why I bought a property so young. Because my mom said, listen, for you, university might be a waste of time. You don't like doing it. You don't like studying. You don't want to go into any of these lines of work. You don't know what you're doing. Why don't you capitalize on what we're doing, what you already have as a skill set, and do that? I went and I bought a property first. And after that, everything became easy. And then the gap between me and my friends who were still in the school and me who was in real life, buying property, doing renovations, working, paying bills, doing all these things, my life experience was huge. This is why I used to get so offended when people would look down at me because I didn't have a university degree.
But at the same time, you were progressing in the financial education, though. This is what separates you from all the other people.
Yeah, but that's funny because everybody, when they're looking at what university degree they should get, is based off of some kind of financial output. So they're technically doing it based off of some kind of financial analysis too, except they have none.
Or a social status.
Yeah, or social status, exactly, right? I remember I had actually this problem. In order for me to clarify a little bit of it, one of the reasons why I ended up going to university, it was largely because I wanted to go for fun. I wanted to know what I didn't know. What was I missing out on? And what it really taught me was that the main value, in my opinion, that came through going to university was the network that you make. It's like people go to Harvard. You know, you can actually download a lot of the lessons from Harvard for free. You can learn a lot of their lectures if you just wanted to. You can just go and get them. But the value comes from the people that you meet, the network that you make. It's like going to seminars. The people that you meet, the connections you make, where they're going, right? Even now, like I went into nursing. There's a lot of people that I know from nursing who are now ready to buy houses, who now want to invest, who want to get out of nursing, surprisingly. And they're now looking at me and talking to me about, hey, what can we do together? How can we invest? And this network is gold. And I didn't really realize that early on. If you are enjoying this video, don't forget to give us a like and a subscribe for more valuable content.
And also people who can go to university, usually their financial background or the family support is actually there. So meeting people, connecting people over there for a business intention, it's actually pretty good,
Yeah.
if you think about it.
And that is actually the limitation. So let's, now that I finished saying a few negative things about university, I want to actually talk about some of the positive things about it. The network actually ends up becoming so valuable, and where a lot of people who didn't go to university find themselves limited. You actually don't have oftentimes as broad a network as people who do go to university. People who go to university, people who go to the house parties, people who connect, people who go to faculty groups, and people who go to clubs. You have so many connections. And if you think about it, how far can you get in life as an entrepreneur with a network versus skills?
Oh, it's always network.
Always a network, even
It's
if you have no
always who you know.
skills, right?
Exactly.
Because you have somebody who has skills.
I don't have a lot of skill set to do things by myself, but I know where to find the talent.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's one of the things that university teaches you. It can teach you how to analyze, assess, systemize, because the whole thing about university is that it's a very structured environment and they teach structure,
Yep.
which if you are a cowboy, being an entrepreneur without any education, you're always shooting from the hip. It might make you very good at solving a problem on the fly, but it won't make you very good at scaling something through a system as you would be if you had learned business through business school.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of that from even the people that we hire, right? Like people that go through university education,
Yeah.
they all have some sort of structure in their work. It can be as simple as how they write, or even like setting up the SOP, standard operating procedures and all that, right? It's usually coming from the university education training. And that's why I see the biggest difference. Entrepreneurs sometimes talk down on the university degrees, right? But it's not really the education that we're talking about. It's the degree that we're talking about. If that degree doesn't yield any financial result, like, why are you going there, right? Is it for passion? Is it really for passion?
Yeah, you know what? And sometimes I still hear people ask, what did you study and where did you graduate from, as if that matters. But I think it matters almost the same way that people expect you to have graduated at high school. I think it's just a social expectation nowadays, and it's a demonstration of capacity more than it is a demonstration of merit and skill and what you can and potentially can and cannot do.
Or
right?
maybe it's how people connect at this moment, right?
Yeah, actually, that's the whole thing. The social aspect, yeah.
Yeah, social aspect is actually quite important.
The fact that I've been able to socialize, meet people, and tell people that, oh yeah, you know, actually I studied nursing. It's actually a great conversation piece. People like to talk about it. People can connect. People can say, oh, how was your university experience? It is common ground. That's the thing. I think it's so common that people just need to be able to connect on that level.
I don't think there's a right or wrong in terms of the path with the education. If you need to learn a technical skill, right, going through the university training is actually not a bad thing, right? If you, that's why like people are saying that if you want to become a lawyer, doctors, and all that stuff, you will need to go through a formal education. That will really shorten the learning curve and condense the learning materials for you to actually achieve that within a reasonable time frame. But for entrepreneur, the education in university may not necessarily be needed.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, there is always some kind of cross application. For example, you went into engineering.
Material engineering.
All right. Is there anything that you learn in material engineering, whether it's through structures, principles, whether it's through frameworks, that you find cross applicable into business?
So I usually tell people I learned how to learn because I didn't really enjoy the experience in the engineering program, because what I had to go through, it gave me some sort of I guess mental toughness, or like to stick into the things that I just didn't enjoy doing. And when I reflect back, that kind of experience taught me how to get through a lot of different situations in real estate, because at least in real estate, things were interesting to me. Sometimes it might be a little challenging, but it's never as hard as forcing me to do something that I didn't like for 4 years.
Yeah.
So like
When you say it like that sounds bad. Yeah.
sure, but at the same time, I did learn something, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
financially, if I could do it over again, I probably wouldn't stick it through the whole program just for a degree.
It does feel wasteful almost when you go through all that. You get the degree and then you end up not using it at all. But the fact that you can attribute a lot of when you're saying you learn how to learn, there's a critical thinking aspect to it where you have to problem solve. Engineers are actually most notable for being able to problem solve and think, what is it they say, outside the box. Right, and they're able to figure things out. So I feel like there is definitely an asset there that you're able to gain from having gone to university and that program that you can apply to your business.
And meeting the deadline at the very last minute.
Exactly, always meeting the deadline at the last minute. At least you know how to meet deadlines. Some of the things that contractors always do, they miss deadlines like crazy. I mean, maybe that's because of that. They don't have that same training to always meet the deadlines. Right. It could be that. I'm not saying that it is. When I reflect on my own degree through nursing, we learned a lot of things that I actually found afterwards were very valuable in business. A lot of communication skills, being able to depict empathy, being able to resonate with people, being able to understand how to critically assess people. Because in business, we're always dealing with people. In nursing, you're still dealing with people, and you have to be able to look at them and figure out where it is that they're coming from and what it is that they need. I found ended up being extremely valuable. So there are definitely things to gain, but it's just when it comes to the value, I feel that it is wrong when people value university education here and then life experience here. And it really just depends on how you're able to capitalize and use things appropriately.
I agree. And continuous education is really important. Continuous education in different things, right? In investment, in financial education. Those are actually the things that we wanted to always encourage people to do. It doesn't stop after you finish university.
I have one more video for you guys to check out over here, but make sure to like and subscribe and stay profitable.